What if you had instant analytics on your PDP images and a faster way to create content that performs better? That's what we're diving into in today's episode, how top brands and retailers are using analytics and automation to stay ahead across retail media and the digital shelf. It's Rapid helps teams scale smarter. They analyze image performance, they help you create optimized assets for retail media networks and the digital shelf, and they integrate directly with PIM and DAM systems for seamless execution. Brands like Pepsi, Mondelez, and Instacart use its Rapid to go beyond basic tools to uncover gaps in PDP and retail media performance by analyzing the images themselves, not just the count. Streamline banner creation across hundreds of formats for Amazon Ads, Walmart Connect, and other retail and social platforms, and launch high-performing content more than 80% faster across e-commerce and marketing channels. If you're buried in manual work or struggling to keep up, this episode and It's Rapid will show you a better way. Visit itsrapid.ai to learn more.
Welcome to Beyond the Shelf with Dave Feinlieb. This show is an open exploration of the people and process behind e-commerce. Through conversations with innovators in the space, we learn the stories of these leaders and their strategies for e-commerce success. We publish new episodes every Tuesday morning, so be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And now, here's your host, Dave Feinlieb.
Welcome back to Beyond the Shelf. Today we're joined by Dave Glaza, founder and CEO of Digits Agency and a retail media pioneer who helped launch Target's original Cartwheel loyalty app. At Digits, Dave and his team work with brands and retailers across the commerce landscape, especially those trying to punch above their weight in retail media. From major CPGs to regional grocers and C-store consortiums, Digits helps clients unlock more budget, activate smarter campaigns, and build media networks that actually perform. In this episode, we get into why most retail media budgets fall short, how Digits helps turn shopper data into dollars, and what it takes to build a competitive retail media network without Walmart-size scale. Dave, welcome to the show.
Hi, great to be here. Good to be here. Thanks for the intro.
Well, exciting to have you here. Take us back. How'd you get your start in the space?
I'm a merchant that kind of came over to the media side. And so I often set it up that way because I feel like a lot of people in the retail media world are, former ad sales or super media people. And, I grew up in this industry as a guy just trying to sell more units out the door as a merchant. So I got my start at Target. I started at Target as a fresh young kid. I worked there 14 years, about 10 of them in the merchant space. And then I learned digital, was fortunate enough to go to Target digital side and launch out a loyalty coupon app called Cartwheel. And that got my wheels spinning, I'd say, around this idea of one-to-one digital marketing, and got the bug for it. Decided to leave Target and start my own agency in the space. So that's 10 years ago now. Wow.
Amazing. Time flies. Take us for a moment into the life of a merchant. We're all trying to get placement for our products, sell more product, do something interesting, compelling with retail partners. Any words of wisdom, rules of the road for our brand listeners on what works, what doesn't work when you're engaging with your merchant?
Yeah, life of a merchant, it's hard, but it's also exciting. I mean, if your job is to sell as much, let's say, snack food or T-shirts or whatever out of a store, the hardest part is curation. Honestly, at least in a physical space. In a digital space, curation is done a different way, more through algorithms and models. But in a physical space, I was a buyer that had a 24-foot run, right? So you could have all of the ideas in the world. You could talk to hundreds of brands that had great product, but at the end of the day, it's got to fit on 24 feet of shelves. And so being able to curate that down and give needs for every type of shopper that wants to come through your door that's the hard part. I think it's more about saying what you're saying no to than what you're saying yes to. That is the hard part as a merchant. And we can talk about what that means for brands, but I think brands probably are continuously hitting their heads against the wall with buyers, because buyers, again, have to curate in a physical world, and that's not an easy job to do.
Great insight. I don't think I've ever heard it put quite that clearly before. So that is it's a great way to think about it. You mentioned you kind of made this move from being a merchant to working in the media side of things. What have been some of the big learnings?
I think initially it was just how quickly and how targeted you can get. And I mean, I remember that, again, as a store side merchant, you're thinking very tops down, big prices, big weekly ads, big TV commercials. And then, after being on the Cartwheel team, it was more of like, oh, we can send a push notification, and within about 4 hours, we have 50,000 people walking through our doors because there was a deal on something. They're walking through and buying more boots or more Halloween costumes or whatever it might be. And so just this idea that you can influence behavior in a bottoms up way, like actually get individual people to change their behavior to walk into the store. Again, if you rewind the clock 12, 14 years ago, it was a different world where digital actions with physical reactions was sort of a new idea that was really just fun to be part of.
Great way to think about it. Digits Agency, was it hard? Was it easy? How's it been?
I think people ask me, like, were you a little nervous when you left your cushy corporate
Right.
job to go start an agency? And I wasn't nervous at the time, but I think if I looked back, I probably should have been. But it was such a new space that was growing that I just wanted to be part of it and kind of go build my own thing. So it's been good. I mean, the retail media space has just been growing so fast that a lot of brands are looking for smart people and smart agencies to attach with to help them grow. So fortunately, we've planted our flag in an industry that's been on the upswing, and so that's made it easier. But trying to be at the forefront of an ever-changing industry, that part's been a bit harder because everybody launching new capabilities, new RMNs, brand budgeting takes a while to get figured out, and so again, being at the tip of the spear sometimes can be tough, but that's what we're here for in the space.
To what extent do the partners that you work with want to be super leading edge versus, let's say, sticking with what's tried and true?
I would say probably they talk about wanting to be leading edge. I think everybody's interested. That probably is what they find the joy and the interest in their job is, ooh, what's the new AI thing right now? Or, a CTV campaign sounds really awesome. But then what usually happens is budgets become a little tight and people stick with what they know works. And so I would say more of our partners probably are the things that are on board with the ideas that are pushing units at the door and they're really consistent. I would say our probably most diligent partners do carve out the budget to always be testing. And so whether that's 10% of their budget, 20% of their budget, something that they're testing that, needs to earn more dollars, that then might become a bigger piece of their portfolio than, that next planning window, whether that be the next year, the next quarter, whatever it is. So I'd say that's probably our best case scenario brands are thinking of it that way.
Love it. Now, Roundel was one of the pioneers really in this space of retail media. Will you tell us a little about that time and maybe some of the learnings you've brought from that to Digits?
Yeah, I think, when we were launching out Cartwheel or the apps, Roundel was still quite new. It was a team of about 20, maybe 30 people at the time. And so the idea of selling digital real estate and that actually being a smarter idea than putting a product to buy on that real estate didn't resonate at first, right? It was just sort of a new concept. But I think for Roundel, what really flipped the script was tying Roundel investments more closely to merchant JBPs and financials. And that was a decision that was made, many years ago at this point. But that really helped get the ball rolling downhill for Roundel. And And I would say we work a lot with regional grocers that obviously are, years behind the Targets and Walmarts, at least from a size of, retail media rollout. And I'd say, but that's a model, or that's a theme that I'd say we've really tried to push with our regionals is, it's not monetization, or it's not like a tax. It's a business growth lever that the merchants and the vendors need to be a part of together. Is being able to, somewhat, I don't want to say mandate an investment, but track and recommend an investment and be very forceful about what you think they should be investing, and then helping them get everybody's best out of that money.
Tell us about Digits. What are you working on?
Well, the regional side is what we're working on. Probably the biggest white space right now on that half of our business is, regional grocers. And by that, I mean grocers that have maybe 50 to 200 stores that are really awesome in their market. We have grocery partners that compete one-to-one with Walmart in their market, but they're only maybe in a couple of states or a few DMAs. But within that market, if you shop groceries, you're just as likely to go to them as you are to go to Walmart. And so helping them build platforms for brands to win is something we've been super focused on. So right now we have what we call our Digits RMN, which is that connection of those regional grocers, and helping them run it in a coordinated way across the pack is sort of where we're at. And then we're focused on rolling that solution out across more and more grocers. So the best way we help our regional brands and our regional grocers is by reducing that fragmentation. And so if we can go from running a handful of grocers to dozens, there's a way for us to, sit in the middle and help both the regional grocers and the brands out, and really solve that fragmentation problem.
So great. Now, is that tech you've built yourself, or is it something you bought, or how does that work?
We like to think of ourselves as tech agnostic. So we're more of a business services firm. I'd say we tried the approach historically of like bringing a tech. And the challenge is if you think regional grocery is fragmented in media, they're also fragmented in tech. So, we've been able to come in and help grocers regardless of their tech. So we have partners that are on the Instacart Storefront Pro platform. We have partners that have built their own. We have partners that are on more legacy e-com and in-store tech. And so I'd say we pride ourselves on being pretty tech flexible. Of course, we have a portfolio of tech partners that are preferred that helps us work the best. But if we had our own tech, I actually think it would be harder to grow because most retailers can only pick one POS platform or one e-com platform. And so if we were stuck on one, we would be limited in who we can help.
This episode of Beyond the Shelf is brought to you by It's Rapid. It's Rapid is the platform Pepsi, Mondelez, Instacart, and hundreds of other leading brands and retailers use to build personalized content at scale. Whether that's images, videos, or product descriptions for their product detail pages, shoppable videos or banners for their digital ad campaigns, or sell sheets for sales enablement, brands that use It's Rapid are able to produce high-quality, on-brand content on average more than 80% faster than category competitors. To find out more, please visit itsrapid.ai.
So I'm a mid-market grocer. I've got a bunch of stores. I come to you and I want to go big in retail media. What advice do you have for me?
Well, I think the first is sort of I would say, what are your brands asking you for, right? Like, have your brands been asking you for retail media services? Like, are they looking for paid search? Are they looking for on-site, or maybe is it off-site social and traffic driving? Is it maybe coupons? So we obviously have a flywheel of assets that we would bring and recommend, but you want to get a pulse of your vendors. So you don't want to build a spaceship that maybe your vendors don't want to be part of, right? And so I think that's first. And then second is, do you have a strong shopper base, like an identified shopper base? Some forward-thinking retailers a couple of years ago, made sure they had loyalty programs, worked to identify their customers. They have strong email databases. Which has led to a pretty strong e-com business. Sometimes we'll meet a grocer and, they want to build retail media and they only have, they don't even have, shop online available. And yeah, there's retail media you can do that's in store or offsite that's not connected, but to date, online is sort of the core of the retail media experience. And so if you're not starting with that, then it's been a little bit harder for them to build a good experience.
Now, take us to the brand side. You mentioned some of the really large retail media networks, but how should brands be thinking about this other segment of the market?
I think we hear a lot from brands that they struggle to manage below like top 10 RMNs or top 5, or the other day somebody told me top 3, and I'm like, wow, that's not many. But the pushback we have is, well, don't you want to talk to all the customers that buy your product, or shouldn't that be the starting point? And by customers, I don't mean necessarily like retailers. I mean the actual shoppers, right? I mean, the example I was giving, Schnucks is one of our best clients in St. Louis. And like I said, they compete very closely with Walmart on a market share basis. Is if you're only talking through Walmart's RMN, you're literally walking away from half the town. Like, is that the way you want to do it? Like, I think those decisions make sense when you look at a spreadsheet of reach from a pure media point of view. But if we go back again to one of your original questions about like merchants, I mean, merchants are looking at, well, I can sell more units out of all of these doors. Right? Like, how do I take a broader approach? And so I think we'll see quite a bit of change in the market in the next couple of years of, if business starts to tighten up, how are you driving business out of not just your top 3 accounts? But there's a ton of business to be won in the mid-market and the regionals as well.
Yeah. Tell us about the formats, what's working either in the store, online, what are you seeing in the market?
Yeah, I mean, the bread and butter is still obviously paid search. That's where it's almost more of a trade investment these days for online, because your way to be on shelf is to run paid search. Obviously, I mean, at Amazon, paid search is such a huge percentage. Even at Target now, it's 66% of the top 9. So you need to be playing in paid search. Otherwise, you're not really even just listed. So again, that's sort of the bread and butter. I think, offsite media from a return has actually been increasing quite a bit. And so we have a lot of brands on the retailer side investing into that. I think the newness is more influencers. That's not necessarily in our data driving the greatest returns yet, but kind of to your point before around, are people investing in the new stuff or the old stuff? I think influencers is what everybody wants to be better at. But that model for super large scale CPGs just hasn't quite been figured out at scale yet. I think a lot of our RMN partners, watch TikTok and they see TikTok Shop and all the influencers with that. And they're like, wow, people are selling like blow dryers and whatnot, like on TikTok Shop. Why can't I do that for my products? And they're like, oh, you can. This is a very different business. And, most P&Ls for candy and boxes of cereal and hairbrushes just haven't been optimized for a TikTok Shop influencer campaign. But that stuff will be coming soon, I think. I mean, that's where the engagement is. That's where the shoppers are. So retail media people are going to have to figure that out. It just hasn't been dialed in yet.
The other area I wanted to ask you about is measurement, always a kind of a hot potato topic, but what do you see working there, and what is kind of the best practices these days?
Yeah, I mean, the brands will ask you for standard KPI measurement, across all of your assets, across all retailers. Brands would love to be able to have everything on one spreadsheet and be able to optimize to it. So I think what people expect as standard as best method is obviously ROAS. That's a pretty standard. You get different attribution windows, but that's the bread and butter. iROAS, I think at this point is expected, but a lot more of our RMNs and our brand partners are leaning into other metrics around new to brand. That's one as well. And then I would say new to category and what percentage they're winning within those. And so some of our brand partners are starting to lean away from ROAS and more towards some more of these ancillary metrics. It's been harder, I'd say, for some regionals to kind of keep up in that space because the metric requests change. And the brands can be a little demanding in what they're looking for, but
right.
It's their money. They have the right to sort of ask for things if they want within the space.
Great way to think about it. The other thing is you mentioned this new formats or types of opportunities in the market, but what are you keeping an eye on? What's interesting, especially for this mid-size segment the next couple of years?
I think for there, it's about AI, at least from a product discovery point of view. So, the way of imagine somebody's somebody's pregnant, they're having their first child, right? Where are you going to go to figure out what types of baby bottles you want to use, what types of diapers you want to use? Yeah. I had a kid for the first time 12 years ago. I think for us, we just walked into a Target store and decided what are the things we wanted, right? Maybe we read some blogs or talked to friends, but it was a different approach. Like now, if somebody's having their first baby tomorrow, they're probably going to ChatGPT or some other type of AI engine to figure out what their product stack is, if you want to think of it that way. And so the retail media in that space is a little bit undefined, but if we're having this talk again in about 3 years, I think it's going to be quite different as far as how are you earning new shoppers, or how are you stealing market share in a category? A lot of it's going to have to be through some of that product discovery through those engines. And we're piloting ways to do that. But that will be one of the newest spaces that, revenue stream wise, I think obviously a ton of retail media or a ton of just media in general, it's going to be spent around that. And as an agency, obviously a significant part probably of what our revenue and the way we earn our money will have to be tied to that bucket in the next couple of years.
Well, Dave, this has been a great conversation. We covered a lot of topics, everything from your starting out at Target to retail media to AI. I've got our rapid rundown, which is a few fast-paced questions, your quick thoughts. First off, your favorite retail loyalty program, past or present?
Well, I have to say the one that I helped launch, obviously. So Cartwheel was awesome at its time. Really a standalone coupon program connected into Facebook. That was pretty cool. In current, it's a different way to look at it, but Trader Joe's obviously doesn't have a loyalty program, but I like how they stuck to their guns a bit from a loyalty to the store, right? There's only one way you can get their products. And so I think obviously the opposite end of the spectrum from a lot of the retail media stuff we talk about, but it's an interesting business case. And so that's something that I think about every once in a while is, how have they just sort of stuck to what they do well and created loyalty, even if you don't want to truly call it a loyalty program in the marketer's sense of words. But it's an interesting one to kind of just think about.
Those are both great. One retail media buzzword you'd love to retire.
Probably fragmentation. So obviously that's what we're here to help solve a little bit. So that one, and a lot of our regional clients are on the bad end of that term sometimes. So that's one I'd probably want to retire.
The most underrated media network out there.
Ooh, well, I have to say Schnucks just because it's the one we help manage. So
yeah,
just on the regional side, they punch way above their weight from a regional grocer. They offer full funnel solutions. And so it's something we're really proud of. But again, based on them being a regional and being, where they rank as far as total grocery stores volume, because they're only in a couple of states, I think they punch above their weight, and it's something we're real proud of with them.
Super exciting. Campaign or creative format you think more brands should test?
I think it's the CTV. And so being able to do connected TV, overlaying that with, live item pricing or live deals within it, it's just such a large format where I think you're actually able to tell your story a little bit more. You're able to probably pull in a little bit of creative content that I think a lot of brands get really scared off by the CPM and would just love more brands being willing to test and to see how it works for them.
Go-to way to unplug after a crazy week at work?
I like to play hockey. So I've got a couple of buddies. I'm in Minnesota. I grew up in Wisconsin, but I've been playing hockey since I was 7 years old, which I think in the upper Midwest is actually kind of old. Some people start a lot younger. So I play in a league once a week. And that's probably, the 90 minutes a day where I'm not really thinking about anything else, nothing work, just really thinking about what we're obviously doing there. And so that's one of my best ways to unplug.
Yeah, you better be focused to be playing hockey and not thinking about work, right?
Yeah, well, there's no checking in this league. This is a league for, adult dads. So it's
Okay.
it's a little bit toned down, but
Yeah.
but you'd still run into people. So yeah, you gotta have your head on a swivel.
Yeah, that's a good one. So many great topics. Dave Glaza from Digits Agency. How can our listeners find out more about Digits and reach you online?
Yeah, best way, you can email me, Dave at Digits Agency, or check us out on LinkedIn. We're pretty active on LinkedIn, posting content of what we're doing and what we're sort of seeing in the marketplace. So a lot of people that maybe don't know me will reach out just via LinkedIn message. And that's probably the easiest way for somebody that doesn't know us that wants to get in touch.
All right. So great speaking with you. I hope you'll come back. Thanks for joining me on Beyond the Shelf.
Great to be here. Thank you.
That's it for this week's episode of Beyond the Shelf. If you enjoy the show, be sure to like, subscribe, and leave us a review. It really helps us grow. And feel free to share us with your colleagues so they too can hear weekly perspectives from the brightest minds in e-commerce. You can also check us out on LinkedIn, where we post clips from each episode, share Dave's takes on breaking industry news, and much more. Beyond the Shelf is a production of It's Rapid. Our host is Dave Feinlieb, and our producers are Sean Levy-Ashvili and Jake Musiker. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on Beyond the Shelf.